Hi everyone, I'm Alexandra. This YouTube channel is my personal trading journal where I share my thoughts, mistakes, things I'm curious about, and everything I'm learning while trying to become a better trader every day. And today we are talking about my trading lessons from February. And let's just say February was not exactly my most profitable month. It was more like a very educational month, the kind of months where the market teaches you lessons, sometimes a little too aggressive. And during this month, I made several classic trading mistakes. Some of them were about patience, some about discipline, and some about my brain deciding to do the exact opposite of what a good trader should do. So in this video I want to go through the main mistakes I made in February, what actually happened in my trades, and what I learned from them. Because if my mistakes can help even one trader avoid doing the same things, then at least February didn't suffer for nothing, right? So and who knows, maybe while watching this video you will recognize a few mistakes you made too. So before we start, let me say one thing. Trading has a very interesting way of teaching humility. You can read books, watch YouTube videos, learn strategies, analyze charts, and then the market comes and say, okay, but let's see what you actually do when the real money is involved. Yeah, so and February was exactly that kind of month for me, a month where the market basically said, Alexandra, you think you understand trading? That's cute. Because the funny thing is, most of my mistakes were not about analysis. Many times my idea about the market was actually correct. The problem was everything else. My patience, my discipline, my ability to wait, or sometimes my brain saying, let's do something very quick and very emotional. What possible go wrong? Or sometimes my brain saying, let's do something very quick and very emotional. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, so of course things went wrong. There were trades where I closed too early, trades where I didn't take profit, trades where I jumped into market like it was the last trade opportunity in human history. And looking back now, some of these moments are a little painful, but also a little funny, because when you review your trades later, you realize something very interesting. Sometimes the market was actually behaving exactly the way you expected. Yeah, just not at the exact moment your emotions wanted it to happen. So today I want to go through the main mistakes I made in February, not in dramatic way, more like a trading reality check. And because if you trade long enough, you will eventually experience all of these mistakes. And if you are a trader watching this video, there is a good chance you will recognize at least one of them, maybe even all of them. And another mistake was lack of patience, and this one is actually a very classic trader problem. Sometimes I enter a trade, everything looked good, the idea was clear, the setup was there, and then the market did what the market always does, a small correction. Nothing dramatic, just normal market movement, but in that moment my brain immediately started creating a very dramatic story, something like, okay, this is going against me, this is definitely the beginning of the huge crash, everything is wrong about the mission. So I closed the trade in a loss, and then of course something very interesting happened. Later the market moved exactly in the direction I expect from the beginning, which is always a very special moment. Yeah, you sit there looking at the chart and the market slowly moves to your original target without you, of course. At that moment, you realize something really important. The problem was not always the analysis. Sometimes the idea was actually correct. The real problem was patience, or more precisely, the lack of patience. Because trading often requires doing something that feels very uncomfortable, waiting while the market moves a little against you, waiting while nothing happens, waiting while your brain tries to convince you that something terrible is about to happen. And apparently, in February, my patience was sometimes, let's say, still under construction. But at least now I can clearly see this pattern, and once you see the pattern, it becomes much easier to start fixing it. Yeah. And yeah, now let's talk about another mistake from February, and this one was a little painful. Actually, not just painful emotionally, educational, I would say. Sometimes my trades were plus 90 or even plus $100 in profit, which objectively is a perfect good result for a trade. But instead of closing the trade and being happy about it, my brain had a different plan. It started whispering very optimistic ideas like, okay, but what if it goes even higher? Maybe this will be the big move. Why take plus 100 if it could be plus 200? And in that moment, it feels very logical. And in that moment, it feels very logical. You look at the chart, the trend looks strong, the candles look confident, right? So you decide to wait a little longer, just a little. Yeah, and then something interesting starts to happen. The profit slowly goes from plus 100 to plus 80 to plus 50, and this point you start negotiating with the market. You tell yourself, okay, Alexandra, if it goes back to 100, I will definitely close the trade. But the market, of course, has its own plans, yeah? And sometimes the profit keeps shrinking, plus $2 plus $10 plus $20, and suddenly the trade that looked amazing just a few minutes ago is now not so amazing anymore. Sometimes the profit even completely disappears, and that is the moment when you sit there and think, so apparently plus $100 was actually a very good idea. The funny thing about trading is that we often imagine the perfect scenario. We imagine catching the entire move, closing at the exact top, being the smartest trader in the room. But real trading is much more about taking good profits constantly, not perfect ones. So one of my important lesson from February was very simple. If the market gives you a profit, just take it, because sometimes the market is generous, but it is not always patient. And here I also want to just quickly mention that, of course, for traders, it is important to say how much you get during your trades, but usually I also count in percentage. And if I'm saying that I got $100 from the trade, it means that I got over 200 percentage of the trade. So it's just a higher, higher percentage, higher profit. It just, so great, so amazing. But you see, I have this mistake. I cannot stop and take my trade, take my profit on the time, and I always waiting. Okay, it could be more. So yeah, this is my big mistake, and I think maybe in the future I will prepare a video about the percentage of my winning and losing trades. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you would like to see something like that, or hear some stories about my trades in the future too. Thanks. Yeah, and now let's talk about another mistake that many traders know very well: FOMO. Yeah, fear of missing out. This one is very interesting part because it usually starts with a very innocent moment. You open the chart and suddenly the market is moving fast. Yeah, big candle, strong movement, and your first thought is, wait, is this the move? Then the next thought comes very quickly. What if this keeps going and I'm not in the trade? And suddenly it feels like the entire market opportunity of the day is happening right now. So instead of calmly analyzing the chart and waiting for a proper setup, I sometimes did something much faster. I jumped into the trade very quickly, very emotionally, and usually without a clear entry plan. And in that moment, it feels like a great decision because you feel like you are finally catching the move. And what often happens next is something many traders have experienced. The moment you enter the trade, the market suddenly decides it's perfect time for a pullback, guys, or correction or something. It just stops moving completely, and then you sit there looking at the chart thinking, interesting, the market was moving perfectly until I joined. Of course, the real problem is not the market. The real problem is entering trades based on emotion instead of structure, because good trades usually come from clear setup, from waiting, from patience, from plan, not from the feeling that something is running away from you. And February reminded me of very simple trading truths. If you feel like you must jump into trade immediately, there is good chance that you probably shouldn't. But yeah, I still need to learn it in the practice, definitely. And another problem I noticed in February was trading while doing other thing at the same time. At first, it doesn't seem like a big problem. You think, I can check the chart quickly. I will just open a trade and monitor it while I do something else. Sounds efficient, right? Like you are being productive and trading at the same time. But in reality, trading and multitasking are not very good friends. Sometimes I was looking at the chart, opening a trade, and the same time answering messages, working, or something else doing, just switching my attention between different things. And every time your attention leaves the chart, even for a moment, you start missing important details. Maybe the structure changes, maybe momentum slow down, maybe the setup is not as clear as it looked at first. The funny thing is that trading often looks very simple from the outside. You just look at the chart and press button, but in reality, it requires a lot of concentration. You are constantly reading the market, watching price behavior, and making decisions based on small details. So, trying to trade while doing five other things at the same time is a little bit like trying to read a complex book while someone keeps changing the page every few seconds. Technically possible, right? But not very effective. So this was another important reminder for me in February. When I trade, I need to actually trade, because trading really needs full attention. Of course, I did some good profits during this time, but again, less profits, more expenses I had. And the last mistake I want to talk about is entering trades too quickly. Sometimes instead of waiting for the right moment, I just jumped into the market. You see a setup forming, you have an idea about the direction, and then your brain saying something like, okay, this looks good, let's just enter now before the move starts. And because in your mind the market is about to move any second, so instead of waiting for confirmation, waiting for the level, waiting for the clear entry, you just enter earlier. And sometimes it works, but very often what actually happens is something like this. Right after your enter, the market decides it's a perfect moment to make a small correction, or move sideways, or test the level again. And suddenly the trade that looked perfect in your head now looks a little uncomfortable. Not because the idea was wrong, but because the timing was wrong. And timing in trading is incredibly important. The interesting thing about trading is that it often rewards people who can do something that feels very unnatural. Wait while nothing happens, wait while the setup is forming, wait while the market is slowly approaching your level. And sometimes the best trade decision is actually not entering yet. February remind me that good trading is not about being the fastest person to click the bottom. It's about being the person who can wait for the right moment. Because patience in trading is not just a nice quality, sometimes it's actually the entire strategy, guys, right? So these were my main trading mistakes in February. Not the most glamorous trading report, but definitely a very honest one. And the funny thing about trading is that mistakes are actually part of the process, right? Every trader makes them. The only real difference is whether you ignore them or learn from them. February was one of those months where the market basically gave me a very detailed feedback session. Some of the lessons were about patience, some about discipline, and some about simply not overcomplicating things. So, going into March, I want to focus on a few key things. First, reviewing my trades more carefully so I actually understand what worked and what didn't, especially when trades been with losing. Second one, being more patient, especially when the market makes small corrections. Third one, taking profits when the market offers them instead of negotiating with the chart and hoping of the perfect scenario. First one, avoiding FOMO and remembering that the market creates opportunities every single day. And finally, waiting for bottom entries instead of jumping into trades not too early. Yeah, because trading is really a long journey, and every month teach something new. Sometimes those lessons are expensive, sometimes they are just a little uncomfortable, and over time all of them helps you become a better trader. Yeah, and now I'm actually very curious about your experience. If you trade too, tell me in the comments what was your biggest trading lesson recently? Maybe something that the market taught you the hard way. I read all the comments, and it's always interesting to see how different trades experience the same challenges. And if you enjoy honest trading reflections like mistakes, lessons, and the real process of learning trading, you can follow this channel because this is exactly what I share here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.